this is the time of year where we take anything juicy wherever we can find it. JoeBucksFan.com posted this item yesterday based upon comments from former NFL quarterback Alex Smith on a show that he co-hosts on SiriusXM NFL Radio. His comments relate to the question of whether or not young quarterbacks are properly served by playing for defensive head coaches. There's a different mentality, he said, when you play for an offensive head coach that wants to light up the scoreboard and outscore the opponent, especially as a young quarterback versus a defensive head coach, when really the coach's mentality is, hey, don't screw up, don't turn the ball over, don't put us in a bad situation. And he specifically then took a little bit of a shot at Jets coach Robert Saleh. Robert, you're a great defensive mind and coordinator, but like you have no idea how to develop a quarterback. The coordinator you hired never called plays, so that's a completely different animal, and as much as you think you're prepared to handle that development of a young kid, you're just not. I like the candor.
Yeah.
I like it a lot.
Yeah, he does a good job. He knows the game.
I've never thought of it from that perspective. I just always think I'd hire an offensive coach because if I have a defensive coach and my offensive coordinator and my quarterback click and everything works, the reward is my coordinator's gone now and I got to find a different one. I got to entrust the most important relationship on my roster to the next guy I hire. And eventually I'm going to hire somebody who can't do it, and then I get fired. I'd rather have the offensive coach who does the, joined at the hip with the quarterback like Drew Brees and Sean Payton were in New Orleans and are together for a decade or longer. That's what I would be looking for. I hadn't thought about the other side where, defensive coach is in a position to develop a quarterback, and maybe you hire the wrong coordinator and it just doesn't work, and everybody gets fired.
Yeah, right. And I think in history here, or throughout time, I think of course there's way more success stories when it's an offensive head coach and the quarterback that way. I mean, if you really think about it, we got Brady and Belichick. That would be one that's different. But Belichick realized, wait, I need to get some special people as offensive coordinators, and we need to push that development there, and there was plans for that. I mean, whether it was Charlie Weiss or Josh McDaniels, whatever it was, that was special. But I think what Alex Smith is saying, and I think Alex Smith does a really good job, radio, TV, I think he's spot on. Mike, you heard me say last year, I know people take it as because I'm a defender of Zach Wilson and I had him as my number one quarterback. Hey, listen, I understand where we are right now, but like I said last year, I thought the Jets had handled the Zach Wilson situation very poorly. Very. We can go into the rookie year right away and talk about how, yes, there's no veteran quarterback to be around him to teach him how to be an NFL quarterback, let alone, like Alex Smith is bringing up, you got a guy in Mike LaFleur who's trying to find his way as an offensive coordinator, never called plays in his life because Kyle Shanahan was calling the plays, and you're going to have him develop the number 2 pick of the draft. Then there's no backup QB. There's no other older presence there to pay attention. And what happens is defensive coordinators, they just don't know sometimes what it all that goes into making a quarterback successful and everything that you need there. I worked for a John Gruden, right? Practice was basically formulated around the offensive side of the ball. Yes, defense is about assignments, play hard, be in the right spot, do all of that, right? But we were always pushing the boundaries offensively. I play for the Tennessee Titans, right? Jeff Fisher is a defensive coach. It was just, hey, offense, let's be simple and physical. Be simple and, hey, defense looked good today out here in practice. All right, offense, good job. Let's go in. All right. And that was it. It was a different style. It was. But it is not necessarily conducive to developing young quarterbacks. That's a real thing. And, to your point, and I think what Alex Smith is saying, I think that is, something that people need to understand a little bit.
One asterisk I'll apply to that is the situation in Minnesota pre-Kevin O'Connell. When Mike Zimmer was there, one of the pressure points between him and Kirk Cousins were Cousins was too careful. Zimmer wanted him to be more aggressive. So maybe that's with an older quarterback. Maybe a younger quarterback, you're more careful naturally. But I just think the mindset that was expressed by Smith is defensive coaches generally are more along the lines of
let's run the
play
ball.
Good defense. We don't screw it up. Let's not screw it up offensively.
Exactly, right? Let's run the ball. Let's take care of the ball. Let's chew up the clock and make sure the defense is fresh, right? And again, we got other examples too of like, yep, Tony Dungy, he was doing that. And damn, they were close. They were close. They were close. But what happened? Okay, he got fired and then he goes to Indianapolis and it's like, oh, wait. Hey, I can still do all the things I want on defense, but I got a guy like, Moore, what the old offensive coordinator that was the offensive coordinator of the Colts. Last name's Moore. I'm blanking on Tom Moore. Thank you very much. Right, Tom Moore. But they had a guy like him to be there with Manning and be all over him and develop him, and they pushed the boundaries of the offense, and what happened? They became a really great team and very relevant and in the Super Bowl conversation for a bunch of years there. But yes, like you said it right. Defensive head coaches, they're a little bit more that way. Be careful. Don't take chances on offense. Don't play any aggressive plays. No trick plays. Do stuff like that. Traditionally, that's how defensive coaches roll, and I don't know if they always realize the full totality of what it takes for a quarterback to be good and staying on them and reps and mentality and what you got to push, schematically and do all those things. I think they look at it sometimes, defensive coaches, and they just watch Mahomes or all that, and they go, hey, we do those plays. We have that play or whatever. And you got that play, but Andy Reid's packaged it a different way and taught the quarterback different things about the play that are little intricate things, that give a quarterback advantage. And that's the difference between an offensive-minded head coach and a defensive one.
I remember last year it was Cardinals defensive coordinator Vance Joseph with perhaps the most succinct and insightful remark as to the New England offense under Matt Patricia,
right?
The former defensive coordinator. He calls an offense the way a defensive coach would. It's the different mindset. And when you think about the two halves of football, and this is why, a lot of people who aren't ardent fans of the sport don't understand. Wait a minute, you're a football coach. Why does it matter offense or defense? You're a football coach. Offense is attack, defense is defend. It's a different mindset. You're reacting and swarming and dealing with whatever the offense is doing. On the other side, you have a plan where you are trying to go forward. It's two incredibly different objectives. Taking territory versus guarding territory. Two wildly different mindsets that cause this very dramatic split. I'm always curious about when in a coach's life he makes that decision. Now, a lot of it is playing experience. I was a quarterback, so I'm an offensive guy. But, Brandon Staley was a quarterback.
Yeah.
He's a defensive guy.
Right.
When do you make that commitment that this is my spot, this is the right side of the ball? And I'm sure it's like snowflakes. Everybody's got their own unique story of how they settled in on that side of the ball and became an expert in offense or defense.
Yeah, no, I think that's real, right? It is. And I think a lot of the times it's just with a guy like Brandon Staley or some of these coaches, they kind of get stuck on the defensive side of the ball early on in their career, and they start to go, well, wait, this is kind of cool, and I enjoy it, and it kind of grows from there. Now, you can do it the other way around. I mean, we know that too. There's other success stories, right? Bill Parcells is a defensive coach. Giants and Phil Simms, not that their offenses were super spectacular, but they're better than what people realize. Belichick, sure, right? And even with the quarterback conversation as of right now, hey, we saw McDermott and what he and Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen. One of the good things he did is he got a guy like Brian Daboll, right? Who, okay, hey, Daboll's here. He knows how to develop this guy. I can worry about defense, and we got that guy here to make the things that we're talking about happen, And so that's what you got to do. You got to be special in who you pick on the OC when you are that defensive coach, to your point that you've made for a few years now.
Pete Demolitis mentioned Pete Carroll. I mean, that's a classic example
Sure.
of defensive coach who has never surrendered defensive mentality.
Right.
Wants to run the ball. Although, hey, you got DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and
He's
Jackson
changing
Smith
a little.
Jigba now.
Yeah.
Getting the ball down the field. Realize you got to be a little more wide
Got
open.
to.
I look at it this way. How many times are you going to keep trying to commit to the run, and you can't have a running back stay healthy? At some point, you got to pivot to the guys who are out there and who are able to keep playing, because they had Marshawn Lynch, and he was a unicorn from the standpoint of he could ground and pound and keep going and going and going. But every running back they've tried to bring in since Lynch can't stay healthy. So let's throw the ball a little bit more instead. Let's welcome this new age. And look, the more the rules cater to the passing game,
exactly,
you'd be foolish not to take advantage of those aspects of the rules.
Right.
If they're going to be quick to the trigger with roughing the passer, if they're not going to call holding, if they're going to let the left tackle and the right tackle leave a half second early to give them a break, give them an edge against the pass rushers, it makes it smarter to try to throw the ball.
Yeah, I agreed with that. And I think the biggest thing, like with all those things you're saying and you're spot on, and where the game is and how creative offensive coordinators are and the receivers are as good as we've seen and the quarterbacks are – the top ones are as talented as we've ever seen, where like to say that, okay, we're a defensive team and we're going to what, be like the 85 Bears or the 86 Giants and just dominate. I don't know if that's really going to happen anymore with the rules and with the quarterbacks we got. I mean, again, the Eagles defense is special. It was special. It was 38 points in the Super Bowl, and it got to a point where we went, I don't know if they're ever going to stop them, right? And I think that's where we're at here. We're like a Pete Carroll of that conversation where, yeah, you know, hey, the 49ers had one of the best defenses we saw in like the last 10, 12, 15 years. And they had a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter with 7 minutes left and lost it because the quarterbacks and the receivers are crazy good right now. And I think that's where you can be a defensive team, but you can't just go like, oh, old school, we're going to be a defensive team and run the ball and not be aggressive on offense or do anything. I mean, that's not, I think, like, you're not able to be consistently good doing that anymore.
After seeing what the AFL did in the 60s, the NFL at some point after the merger realized we need to start revising the rules to make the game more conducive to offense. And more recently, they have realized we need to revise the rules to keep the quarterbacks on the field as much as possible. The star quarterbacks stir the drink, as we discussed yesterday, how much of the scheduling process dictated by where the star quarterbacks go. They want to keep them around. They want to make them effective and successful. And the best coaches understand it's easier than ever to put together an effective passing game, but you have to be aggressive. You have to develop your quarterbacks, and that's Alex Smith's point. Offensive coaches better suited to doing that than defensive coaches. All right, let's take a break. The Chris Simms Top 40 Quarterback Countdown continues with some guys who are going to have a hard time improving their lot in 2023 because they're not going to be playing. Backups who find spots in the top 40. We'll talk about several of them when PFT Live continues right after this. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.